Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel and my craft room. I'm Shellie Geigle with JS Hobbies and Crafts, and I have another mini album tutorial for you featuring the Stamperia Lilac Flowers paper collection. So if you are a beginner, you can make this. This is a step-by-step, start to finish, and we actually make this together. So let's take a look at the project we'll be making today. Okay, so this is the album that we'll be making. It is a 7-inch wide by 8.5-inch tall with approximately a 4-inch wide spine. On the cover we do have an envelope. It does work. You can slide small photo mats or memorabilia in there, as well as slide something back behind. Okay, page 1. And one thing we did do is scallop our edges of our pages, and I think it looks really pretty like that. Okay, page 1. This folds out. A lot of places to plant photos here. We have a pocket back here, and we have a pocket right up front. Over here we have an envelope once again that we can open up. You can slide little tags back behind, and it does store for photographs. Okay, we have this is page 3. This opens up. We have a place to plant a photo. We have a pocket. And we have more places to plant photos right there. Over here we have 2 little corner pockets that will hold in our picture mats. Now after reviewing this, if you need more picture mats, you'll want to add in some solid colored cardstock. I recommend going with a pastel or very light purple or a very light pink for solid colored cardstock to add more if needed. I used all the sheets in this paper pack because it only comes with 10 per pack, and so we need 2 packs to do it, and that gives us 20, and normally I need about 24 to do these. So I was very cautious on every cut we made, and we were able to do it, including the picture mats. So, okay, pocket. Got a couple pockets there. We have a little tag that is also a little pocket. And I made this cute little folder. Those back in. We have a fold out and a pocket, and this folds out. We have another side pocket, and we have a pocket back behind. Over here we actually have 3 pockets. We have one back here, one right here, and then a small one for tags right up front. Here we have a fold out, and it's magnetic. It folds up. That paper is just so gorgeous. It was a lot of fun to work with. And this folds down. We have a side pocket here. And then this folds out. And I left this alone for easy mounting of pictures on there. Over here we have a side pocket. And this opens up, and same thing. So Last pages, this folds out. This folds out. We have a pocket. And also what we have is a top loading pocket. And I did place a flat back pearl there for easy for sliding it in and out. Over here we have a fold out. Folds out again. Inner pocket here and a small pocket over here. And we have the top loading pocket. So that is what we will be making today. For this tutorial, if you are not one who die cuts your trim, be sure to visit my instructions for those of you that will be punching your trims. It is right after the materials list. There are some quick instructions for you. Okay, that is it. Let's move on to the materials list and everything that I used in this. Materials list. So, the main ingredient is Stamperia Lilac Flowers paper pack. Now, one thing about this is only 10 double-sided sheets come per package. So we're going to need 2 packages. So 2. So because we are only working with 20 double-sided sheets, if you are prone to making errors, you might want to pick up a 3rd pack or alternate in something else that might match in. The cardstock that I will be using is the Cordinations 110-pound white cardstock, and you get 25 sheets in this pack. TYVEK, I get them and stock them in the store in 5 packs, and all they are envelopes, but the material, it's very hard to tear, and this is what we're going to need. We'll need a couple strips off this for the binding of our album. For our covers and spine of our album, you're going to want 2 12 by 12 sheets of medium weight chipboard, and we'll be cutting this down to size. I will be die cutting throughout this tutorial my flowers and my trims, with the exception of using a 1/2 inch EK Tools punch, and that will just be used in the beginning. If you are not a die cutter and don't want to die cut your flowers, I do have some options for that though. So I'm going to use this. I bought this a while back. It's the Classic Rose die and the matching Classic Rose stamp, as well as the Classic Rose vines and the Classic Rose vine stamp that go together. Options are these are by Petaloo, and they're beautiful and they will match in nicely. You even get a couple butterflies here, and you get some different colored lavenders and purples. And this one is the Mums in Butterflies. Here's another great option for you. And this is the Magnolia Mix of 5 in the lavender purple color. They're just gorgeous. And here's even another one. And this is by Petaloo as well. And this is the Garden Roses. And you get 5 flowers here. And then, of course, in this I will be bringing in some pinks with it. So if you're hunting at my shop, you can find some pinks or a different shade to complement these rather than just having purple throughout. Okay, another thing is for small flowers. Tim Holtz has these, and these are his bouquet, and you get a ton of these mini little flowers, and you can ink those to whatever color you want or just use them white. And look how many you get, and they're really not expensive at all. So inks and colors. For my leaves, I will be stamping them with Memento Olive Grove. And I don't have an example right here. Then I'm going to use a shade of a different color. Now this one is Turtle, but all I have in my shop or getting in my shop are the small Cat's Eye Colorbox Turtles, and that will work just as well. Okay, I am using several different inks. So because I have used my Classic Rose before, I am using my die cuts I've already stamped, and all of mine are pretty much, until I die cut again, except for that one, are stamped with Shabby Pink. And then you can ink around the edges and put some pearls in the center. You can also just stamp it and add some diamond stickles, some glossy accents, and shape it. So inside, these are pearls and these are lemon chiffon. Okay, now this is a beautiful color, and you can get some different tones in there with this. This is Plum by Colorbox, and I will be using that. And to complement my flowers, I will be talking briefly and showing you a little bit about Wink Stella and my glossy accents. So, my next one is by Colorbox, and it's Lilac. And then I also have Romantic, and then Violet. So this is just some with Sunflower. Now, it may not look as potent as this because once I daub, I do wipe off a lot just to get a very light color on those. Okay, Wink Stella. For those of you that don't know, it's a pen, and I like the clear. When you get it, you will want to unscrew the pieces and take off this black ring. It isn't going to work with the black ring, and you can just throw that away. I think you can see now the tint on that. Okay, so that is what I like to use on my flowers, and once it dries, I then come back with my glossy accents. Now with glossy accents, what this is going to do is two things. It can do three things actually. So the first thing that it will do is gloss this up. You can apply it with a little brush. You'll want to make sure that you thoroughly clean your brush right after each use, or your brush will be ruined. The second thing it is it's like a medium. It will look wet, and that is where the gloss comes in. Okay, the third thing it does is stiffen up those flowers. Okay, I talked briefly about stickles. This one has stickles on it, and that's just an example of how you can use your stickles, but also we can use this in our album on sentiments. We could use it on different things within our album. So stickles, and this is the diamond one. On my spine of my album, I'm going to be using the Tim Holtz Baroque frames. You get 2 per package, and we're only going to use 1. Other embellishments is the Jolee's gems, and I think it's called the Pearl and Gem Clusters. Now, I'm not going to use this whole thing in here. I've got 2 left from my previous tutorial, and I want to use them. For my side closure, I will be using the extra large hook and eyes by Dritz, and I'm using the nickel plated, and there are 3 per package, so I only need 1 pair, and you'll have 2 pairs left for another album or another project. Okay, I will be die cutting, and I've got some new Desire dies in, and I absolutely love these. So you don't have to use all of them. If you only have maybe 1 or 2, use what you have. But I did want to work some of these different trims into my project. So this one I just love. It's the Delicate Trellis. And for an example of what this looks like is, there it is there. But then we can also piggyback them, and look how pretty that is. So that's what that one produces. Chantilly lace. And I'll just show you really quick. Look how pretty that is. It's very delicate looking, very pretty. I'm also going to use the Parisian desire, and it produces this, and it's really pretty. And we can also piggyback this one so that we have more there. Another one that I fell in love with is this, and you get 2 metal dies in here, and this is the lattice corner. And here it is, I die cut, but isn't that cool? 1/2 inch style punch, and when I say 1/2 inch, it's this, your trim piece here from the top to the bottom, about 1/2 inch. And we'll just be using this in the building. This is one of our pages here, and when we put that in, we'll have this at the edge. So when we're flipping each edge, we'll have this. I'm using the Tim Holtz crinkle ribbon, and it's this color. I've already gotten into this pack, but all this is, and I'll show you, is exactly what it states. It's a crinkle ribbon. It crinkles up, and a lot of people, what they do is they dampen theirs, and then they crinkle it up in their hand. Me, I just will take it like so, roll it in a ball, and just kind of move it around. And there's people too that actually dye this ribbon and get colors they want, but just kind of crinkling up, you can see that you get a crinkled effect, and it's really cool. So I wanted to use that in my project. But any ribbon will do. If you have your own ribbon already, don't go out and buy more. Just use what you have on hand to save a little money. Lace. And again, that's all according to taste and what you would like. But I'm going to use 2 yards of the flapper style lace. And what that is, it looks like this. Mine's this little sample piece is all messed up, but here we go. It looks like this. And I am going to use a yard of this. Isn't that pretty? Okay, the 1/2 inch, 1 yard of 1/2 inch, and this is the flat Rochelle 1/2 inch, and it's thin. We're also going to want 1 of the lace applique, and this will be for our cover. Okay, flat back pearls. I will be using a variety of flat back pearls. If all you have is one style, go with it. Save money, or if you're looking to get more, a different variety. But here's just some, for example. Magnets. You'll want about 10 craft magnets, and I do sell these in my store in 10 packs, but these are about 1/16 of an inch thick and about 3/8 wide. And they are very strong, and I do like to use these. Now this is optional. Whoops, this is optional, but I'm going to be using this for the butterflies in here. I wanted something different, and I've already have a pack that's open, so, and I've used some of these on a different project, but I'm going to show you what these look like, what I have left. And I'm after the purples and the white butterflies that I have left. Those of you that don't have any type of leafy vines, this might be a good opportunity for you to use some of them in your project. They are dimensional, and this is the 49th and Market Butterfly Harvest. And there is another one of these that have more leafy that if you wanted. But these I'm going to show you. They do have the little pop-ups. We will be reinforcing those with glue. But what you can do is bend these up. And these are not paper. These are a plastic. And you can get a dimensional. And we can put them on our cover or inside. And we don't have to worry about the paper tearing. But I used this on a previous project, and they worked out great. So I want to try them in this one. Okay, so I'm going to show you the project I used them on, my previous project. This is an album I made for my cousin, and I have not delivered it to her for her birthday yet. She's a dog lover. But here are the butterflies and how I use some of these on the cover. But they are dimensional, and it's really cute. I used one on the back. We're also going to be using bling on a row, and all this is the single strand, and it helps dress up our project. Okay, score tape is the double-sided adhesive that I will be using, and this is the 1/4 inch. And this stuff is good. It's what's going to keep our pages hinged down to our spine and to keep our papers flat on the inner pages when we're done completing a page and we load it into our book. Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear adhesive glue is what I recommend everyone use, but if you have a glue that you like to use it. It has no glitter in it. It's just their name. And this is good for metal, paper, resin, plastics. Okay, things that you're going to want to help you tools-wise is you'll definitely want a ruler handy and a pencil and eraser, some scissors, a crafting knife, and you'll want to put a fresh blade in if yours is used up. It helps to get the double-sided backing off the score tape, as well as if we need to do any trimming. You will want a paper cutter, and you will also need a scoring board. And I do use a hot glue gun for quick tacking. That's helpful. Now, if you are someone who does not have a die cutting machine and want to use punches, I'm going to show you the difference here. And I'm only going to be teaching for the die cutters on this particular one, but I'm going to give you real quick instructions. So for an example, this Chantilly lace die plate, you can see how broad it is. And one thing that I will be doing is bringing up the paper. I'm going to grab something here. Even though it's down here, I'll probably be bringing up the paper up to where the edge is of where our die comes down and meets. On a lot of it, some of it will be down under here with some lace. So look at the difference between a deeper edge punch, the spacing. If I was to lay this here, you can see that the bottom of yours is quite different. Now when I run mine up like this, you're going to have probably about a 1/4 inch of spacing left over. What you can do there is you can either lay lace to cover the white. You can wait till the end of the tutorial to add a strip of scrap to run across your page. Bling it. Put a strip of bling. Now when it comes to down here, you're going to have from here to here difference. That's where you are going to either have to wait till the end of the tutorial to cut strips of leftover paper or your solid colored cardstock to fill in the gap, or something else to fill that. Grab your 2 pieces of 12 by 12 chipboard, and on each one we're going to measure over 8.5 inches and cut. So now what we have is this. These 2 pieces we can put back away for another project. So we are 8.5 inches across. I'm just going to turn mine like this. On both sheets, measure over 7 inches and cut. So here is our front and back covers. We'll stick that off to the side. One of these you can stick off with your other 2 pieces that we won't be using. On this one, we're going to do something different for our spine. We are going to measure over 3 7/8 of an inch and cut. We can put this with the other pieces we won't be using. So this is what we're going to be left with. Front, spine, back cover. Let's stick these off to the side. We are going to wrap these, but we need to get our cardstock. Grab 2 pieces of your white cardstock. And this is 8.5 inches this way. We're going to measure over 10 inches and cut. you'll have a couple pieces left over here. Now, one thing I do tell people, and especially since we're very tight on paper for this, is any scrap pieces of your white cardstock or your decorative, the Lilac Flowers paper pad that we cut into, we're going to make two piles, and I call them reserves or scrap piles. So the white cardstock will have its own reserve pile for us to grab from. And then when we start cutting into the decorative paper, that will have its own. So what we're left with here is an 8.5 by 10-inch sheets. Let's stick that off to the side, and let's grab another piece of white cardstock. On this sheet, we're going to cut this down to a 10-inch by 5.25 inch piece. Your leftovers and your reserves. So we got 5.25 by 10 inches. This is for the covering of your spine. And we're going to do this with all of our pieces here. We would be 10 inches tall. And this is real simple. We're just going to be wrapping our edges. So what I like to do first is get this where we have about 3/4 of an inch of overhang of white cardstock off all the edges. And then what we will do is we will just fold up and around, okay? And that will make it easy for us when we do wrap. And then I'm going to pull in the inner sides. And it doesn't have to be exact, just make sure that you have enough to wrap around the edges here. So we'll do that with each one of these. So once you've done that, and the 3/4 of an inch overhang, it's going to be approximate. Okay, so this is what we have. We're going to need our scissors, and if you notice, you'll be able to see where the corner of your folds meet here, and there will be like a little square. All we're going to do is cut at an angle, but we're not going to get right on that where it meets. We're just going to leave a little bit extra, and we'll be tucking that. So give you a heads up, my corner of where my two meet is right about here, and I left a little bit there. So on each one of these, we're going to do that. Just do it a slight angle there. So let's continue on and do that with all sides of each one. So this is what yours should look like. Let's just set these off to the side. We're going to work with the spine first, and we are going to need our score tape. Okay, so with our score tape, the first thing that we want to do is bring it and frame the outside of our spine like a picture frame. And I'm just going to curve mine. You don't have to curve yours around the corners. You can just stop, tear it, and then move on to the next side. Once you have it like this, we're going to place one down the center. And we'll place two on each side of that center piece. And you don't have to measure, just eyeball that. Okay, what we're going to do is remove the score tape, and what I like to do is just kind of keep this top one up. Sometimes it's easier if I pull in two sides, but all I'm going to do is put it right there where it meets the top, and I'm going to lay this straight in there where it needs to be, like so. So this is where my craft knife comes in handy, and I'll just start removing the backing off the score tape. So I've got my backing of the score tape off. It's very sticky. One tip is to try to keep your fingers out of the score tape. It's impossible for me, but another trick is to wash your hands frequently with soap and water to get the oils off your skin, any lotions, because it does lower the adhesive strength if you start getting oils and or lotions on there. So here's the top. I'm looking at my sides where those score marks are. And I'm just going to hit right here, and then I'm going to make sure that this is as straight as I can get it. And I think that's good. And I'll just press that. Another thing is you'll want to make sure that your work area is clean of any, maybe you've got some ink on there or what you have, because we are working with white cardstock. So we're going to do that same thing with these. But let's figure out how we want to put our score tape on these. So around the edge, like a picture frame to start, and one down the middle. Now we're just going to lay 3 pieces of score tape on either side of that middle point. And over here too. We're going to do the same thing with this one. So this is what we have. This is where we're going to do the same thing like we did here. We'll remove the score tape and we'll bring that up, making sure that we are where our sides are supposed to be for our crease, and we will place that. And the same for this one. So what we're going to want to do is just apply our score tape to the sides, and we'll also get the top as well, but we aren't going to flip that over yet. The first things that we're going to flip over are these. So let's get it ready by applying our score tape. And I'm just going to wrap mine around here to get the edges. Okay, so we're going to do that on each of the flaps. Okay, so whoops, excuse me, got caught in the wire there. Okay, so this is what we have. Now the only thing that we are going to do right now is release the score tape from the sides, and we are going to push them over. So I have the score tape off now, the backing off each side. All I'm going to do is make sure that this is where it's supposed to be and pull it over, just like that. And we'll do the sides. And one thing about this is you really want to make sure you get that score tape to contact on that chipboard really good. So we're just going to keep doing this for all sides except for the top and the bottom. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do before we pull these over is we need to connect these. And these are going to butt right up tight against each other. So cut 2 pieces of your TYVEK that are 1.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. Let's get our scoring board out. And by the way, I have a Martha Stewart scoring board that is perfectly good. I wanted to try a new style of scoring board, and this is the EK Tools, and it has the same spacing that the Martha Stewart does. It seems really durable. I've been using this, and it also comes with your corner piece that you can clip in and out, so an extra little tool. So I am trying this scoring board out, and I've already done a project with it, and I like it. So if you need a scoring board, I heard that the Martha Stewart ones have been discontinued. This is a good one, and I did bring some into my store. They work really good, and I like this bone folder scoring tool that it came with. Okay, lay your TYVEK on your scoring board. We are 1.5 inches across. At 3/4 of an inch, let's score. Now, one thing about this TYVEK is it's going to try and get loose or wiggle around on you, and that's okay. Just do the best you can. So at 3/4 of an inch, as you can see, it wants to slide and get off track, this TYVEK. So the whole idea, if you just cannot get yours straight, all we're trying to do is fold this in half. So if you need to do it by hand, do so. Let's flip those over. The peak will be facing up, and we are going to lay score tape on each side of the peak. So I'm going to get mine down and I am going to show you mine. So right side of the peak, and then towards the outer edge should be just fine. And now the left side of the peak. So I'm going to continue on. This is what mine looks like. I am going to clip, like I said, any overhang. Here is the peak. So let's do that one. Got both of mine done. Before we go forward, let's clean up those edges. Any score tape that you see peeking over the edge of your TYVEK, snip them off. Okay, both of mine has the score tape on. Let's start with the spine. I think that's going to be easier. This is 8.5 inches long, so it is the same height as our spine piece. I'm going to remove one side of my score tape, and I can see where my chipboard is up here, so that's going to be the top, and I'm going to drag that all the way, and I'm going to pinch this to where the peak is this way, and I will bring it all the way to the edge and lay that down. So let's do that together. Okay, I'm just going to pinch that. Here's the peak, and it's going to head this way because I'm working on this side. And I am going to line this up at the top with my chipboard and right on the edge there. Trying to keep my fingers out of it, but like I said, it's pretty impossible. Okay, make sure that that is down really good. You can also use your scoring tool, which is good, to make sure that that score tape has made contact and adhered to your chipboard. Okay, same thing on this one. We're going to remove one side. Now this time the peak is going to be heading off this way. Line it up at the top and over to the edge, bringing it down and guiding it. Perfect. We are now ready to attach our pieces. So what I'm going to do is remove my score tape. I am going to line up my album so that my chipboard is flush going across and I'm tight up against each other. There is no spacing in this style of hinging, which makes it easy. You don't have to fuss about getting it accurate as far as measuring out spacing and all that. So I've got this as tight as I can. I'm lined up, and now all we do is push this over and smooth it down. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over on this side. Remove the score tape backing, bring my album up, make sure I am lined up straight with the other, and I think that's it, and push against each other so they are flush and tight, and then smooth that over. If you get wrinkles, it's okay. You're not going to see that. So now we have a nice binding and it looks good. Okay, look in your reserves first. If you have a piece of cardstock to use, great. What we want are 2 pieces of white cardstock that are 8.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Grab your scoring board. So I've got my 2 pieces, 8.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and we'll just put this on our scoring board. We're 1.5 inches across. At 3/4 of an inch, we'll score, and then we're going to fold on those score lines. We're going to flip these over, and we're going to do the same thing like we did with the TYVEK. Laying our score tape, the right side of the peak and over here, and then on the left side of the peak and over along the edge. I'm a bit tongue-tied today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Perhaps it's because I had a week and a half off from filming, and it's early morning right now. So let's see here. Let's start with the first one, and we're going to do the same thing. Our peak would be up, and let's do what we did before. So peak heading this way, we're going to remove the score tape, and we're just going to lay it right on top of that TYVEK and right at the edge. So you can see where your crease is. So that makes it very easy. And I'll line it up here, making sure I do not go over the edge down. Okay. Let's remove this backing off this side. And we're just going to flip that right on over. Now, one thing is, if you find that, you know, I should have checked my cut, and I think I cut mine just a little bit longer. What you can do, because I'm only human too, and these things happen. If you notice, mine, oh, I see. No, mine is perfectly fine. I accidentally got my score tape up over the edge of the chipboard. That's what my problem is. I thought I made a cutting mistake. But no, I did not. But if you did, let's backtrack. If you did, what you can do is at the edge of your chipboard where it ends at the bottom, you can clip. This is going to wrap over. You won't see any imperfections. All right. But being said that I did go over my chipboard down here, I am going to lift up on this score tape so that this can lay flush. And it looks like I did the same thing down here, getting crazy with my score tape. Alright. Now I've got my score tape backing off this side. The peak will be heading this way. And I'm going to line it up. And it looks like I did again. Got crazy with my score tape. So, and I went over the edge. I'm going to lift that up first before I do anything. If you did too, you might want to release yours. Okay, up at the top of the album, and where that crease is our guide all the way down to the bottom of our chipboard. And then we will press. And we can use our tool to smooth that down. Okay, and I'm going to release my score tape up here again. Alright, here we go. Just flop it right on over. Make sure that's down. Okay, here's the easy part. So I'm going to do this first one. I'm just going to push in with my finger over here. And over here, I'm going to do the same. Just push in. And now I'm going to press it up. Make sure that that is down good. I'm going to do it down here too, on the sides. Make sure I'm flush and wrap up. So let's continue on all the way around our album. Okay, so you should have your album looking like this. Let's work on getting this done. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 3 7/8 inch by 8 1/4 inches. Once you have that, pull up your sides, lay this down, and make sure that the edges do not get caught in your hinges, that it's going to clear, and mine does. We're just going to set this right off to the side for now and get our other pieces together. Okay, cut 5 pieces of cardstock that are 8 1/4 inches by 7 3/8 inch. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on each one of these. Lay your paper down. We are 7 3/8 inch across. At 6 3/4 inch, we are going to score. And we're going to do that on each one of these pieces. Fold each one on their score line. This is where our 1/2 inch punch will come into play, and I'm using the abstract flower, and all we are going to do is punch. Whoops, I got something on mine. Here's our score line over here. On the opposite end, we are going to punch along the long side. For a tip, when you are about ready to punch yours, if you notice, sometimes when we lay our paper, it looks like it's cut off over here, so we would have an open edge. We want to avoid that. So what I'm going to do is place my paper right in between the two scallops here. And then I'm going to start punching. That way I know my end piece at the top is going to be closed off with no open ends. If you have open ends, I will show you what you can do. I have a little bit of an open end on this one that I first did, and that's perfectly okay. So let's get started with that. Okay, we are done with the 1/2 inch punch. I'm going to show you an example with a different style punch. For instance, this is a 1/2 inch EK Tools, and it is the Hearts and Squirrels one. But if you notice, it's very delicate and it has the edge. So if you are using this or something similar and it does like this, what you're going to want to do is grab some of a scrap strip, and you will run it just enough, okay, to cover and glue it together. And you'll want to do that if your page is like this, okay. We're going to be putting them in like this, so you will want to do on the back side, and then you would just glue that to give it just a little extra. And if you want to run it the full length to the edge, you can do that to make it all consistent. And you can do that here and here. By the time we're done laying our paper, you're not gonna really see that at all. So I have all mine punched, and all we're gonna do now is lay our score tape. So I've got 1/4 inch here. So one thing I will tell you, the most important is you have that peak, right? You're going to go just to the right side of that peak on your little hinge. Do not get it on that peak. So I will lay a piece here and run it all the way down on the side of that peak. And then I'm going to lay one right next to that. And then I'm going to make sure that that score tape is down really good. And you can use your bone folder. And then we're going to snip off any overhang of score tape because this would show. Okay, let's get the rest of these ready to go. Set these off to the side. Remember this piece? This piece is not only going to serve as our guide when placing this, but it's going to give us a nice smooth surface to adhere our pages to on the spine. So what we're going to do is put our score tape around the edges like a picture frame. Okie doke, we got it around here. The next thing we want to do is, since this is this is very important that we make sure that we get enough score tape down that it stays down. Because our pages will adhere to it, we're going to lay one down the middle, and we're going to lay several on either side. And I'll show you what mine looks like as soon as I'm done laying it. You're going to want a complete coverage, and you'll snip off anything that is peeking out. Grab your ruler, and this is going to help you stay straight. What you're going to do, grab your pencil and measure up from the bottom up about 1/8 inch and make a pencil mark. And I like to do it on both sides of mine so that I can kind of make sure that I can get a nice even line going across. Okay, so what this is going to do is help me. When I place this down, I'm going to be in between both of these hinges. And I'm going to lay this right on top of those lines that are going to keep me straight. So let's remove the score tape, and I'll have mine off in a moment, and we'll place this together. Got the backing off, and I'm going to come to those lines, and remember, don't get on your hinge. You should have enough room to get in between. And I'm going to use this to even it out. However, one thing is now that we have this down, sometimes your scoring tool can make creases or marks, so I'm going to lay another piece on top of that to make sure that any scratches will get on my scrap piece of cardstock rather than on my good piece there. Okay, it's down. It's time to place our pages. And this is real simple, and I'm going to turn mine like this. Okay, here's my edge. First thing I'm going to do is remove my score tape. And the top and the bottom of this is what's going to keep me lined up. And I can come all the way to the edge of that too. And I'm going to place it. And then these will lay straight together across our spine. Okay, first one. I'll line it up with the top first, the corner, and it will come down right on top of that other. And it's down. I'm going to use this to place over and make sure that's down really good, that hinge. Okay, there's our first one. I'm going to remove the backing off my second page. Okay, we are just going to butt that right up next to the other one. And it will lay, and your top is your guide, and it will keep it straight. So once you have it down, you can use your foam folder, your tool, to make sure that that is down really good. Okay, and we're going to continue on. We're going to keep placing these. And we have the last one. And there we have it. Perfect. And that looks really pretty. And the other thing is it does not go over the edge, so when we do place our thing over here, it won't catch. We're now ready to start decorating the outside. So before I get started, since there's only 10 sheets in each pack, with one of the packs, I'm going to carefully remove, because they are bound into the book without tearing them up. I'm going to remove each piece. And again, you will want to be very careful. I've separated out all my pieces from one paper pack. And by the way, don't throw this away until the end of the tutorial, just in case I decide to use some of it. I am making this as I go, so I may do that. Okay, so with this, where am I here? All I'm going to do, and it's to conserve space on my work area and to match them up, so I only have to work from one book now. I'm going to place in the match next to the other one. So let's spend a moment doing that. Alright, I've got mine all in the book. That will make it easier so that I can see what I have, and easier to keep track of what I have going on here. The first sheet that we want to grab from our paper pack is this one. And on the back side, it's kind of a pinky purpley. So this is looking at it straight on. I am going to turn it like this. So the lines are now like this. I try to stay consistent with how I measure over. So we're going to measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. Set this piece off to the side for now. Looking at your paper like this, we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. This left side, just put to the side. This is our back sheet. Stick that off to the side. Now, one thing about this is we cut it only at 6 inches and we are 7 inches across. If we were going to bring this up, it would give us about a 1/16 of an inch top border of white and bottom, and we would bring it over to the side like this as well. But first what I want to do is I want to get our Dritz on there, so when we lay this over it, it's going to cover up some of that, and then we can put our little Jolee there to cover up any bumps. So let's grab our Dritz. These are the pieces that I'm going to do, the flat one and then the hook part. The hook part doesn't actually get attached until the end of the tutorial. And this is where a binder clip or clamps will be very helpful. And I'm going to use a clamp. Okay, let's get our glue out. And on the flat piece, I'm going to apply glue. If it's cooperating, there it goes. Like so. Now, I'm going to put something underneath here to prop this up. Let's see what I have. I'll grab this, see if this will work for me, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, glue side down. I'm just going to stick that right in the middle. Now when I place that, grab your other side and just hook it through so you don't bring it in too far and you're not out too far. So I think that that's a nice easy fit for me. And I'm just going to clamp it and hold it. So while that's drying, I'm going to take my sheet, and remember, looking at it for the front cover, we're going to have our beautiful flowers off to the right. So I'm going to flip it back over. I had it upside down. Okay, so flip it over. Let's grab our score tape. We're going to apply score tape around the edges like a picture frame to start. So I've got mine around there. We're going to lay a second piece right next to it. Excuse me. Let's go one down the middle. And you don't need to measure, just eyeball that. And we're going to go 3 on each side. Now this seems like a lot of score tape. However, you don't want any buckling of your paper. So this is why I do it like this. So my Dritz is still drying, so I am for sure, I'm going to stick this right on top of my cover for now, so I don't get these confused. Let's grab the back sheet, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the front, making sure that we have this side facing up. That other piece of the Dritz, put off to the side, don't lose it. We will come back to that at the end of the tutorial to get that hooked on. So I got the score tape on the back side of my cover. I'm just going to stick that back off to the side. I think my Dritz has had plenty of time to dry. It does not take that long. Okay, I'm going to remove the score tape. Backing, that is. I always say remove the score tape. So if you hear me just say that, it's the score tape backing. I am ready to go. I'm going to turn this around so maybe you can see a little better. Maybe not. So when I place this, like I said, I'm going to leave about a 1/16 of an inch of white border or an 1/8, whatever you end up having, just so that it's even. And now I'm just going to press around. Do not press hard in between here because you will break your paper. Just make sure it's down. Okay, let's flip it over. Album over. Again, I'm going to prop this up so you can see. Hello. There we go. This is the back piece, like this, and it's going to go with the flower towards the edge. So let's remove the score tape, and we are going to do exactly the same placement as we did for the front. Just like that. Okay. That piece that I had you set off. So we're going to look at it like this. So the flowers are on the top. We're going to measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. Put this in your reserves. We may grab at that in just a little while. Okay, so I am just going to open this up flat. Move this off to the side. We got to put score tape on this. So we're going to take our score tape and go around the edges like a picture frame to start. Let's go one down the middle and 2 on either side. Remove the score tape backing, and all we are going to do is bring this down in between our hinges, even, and we'll have a little bit of a border there. And we'll place that. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet on the back. It's this. So we are conserving paper, and so we're going to need a few things. We're going to do one thing at a time. So if you notice, come down here, we don't want to cut into any of our other prints. What we're after is this border. So when I cut down this way, I'm going to make sure that I don't cut into this. So I want to be right on the other side of this. So I'm going to cut mine, and then I'm going to show you what mine looks like. So you're definitely going to want to use your paper cutter because you will want a straight edge. So here's what mine looks like. I did not cut into that print. It's just right on the other side of that. Okay. So with this piece, looking at it like this, measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. Keep this sheet handy. We are going to get back into it. This little piece, put in your reserves. Okay. Now this is our cover over here, the side with the Dritz. And I am going to glue this right like this. I don't want to go over the edge of the spine because if I do that, it will poke out. So just to the right side of the hinge, like so. I'm going to glue that down. And with this, I'm just going to use my regular glue. So let's apply our glue here and we will place it together. I've got my glue on. Now with the little scallop edge, it's going to be facing this way. So I do want to line it up to be even with the top of my paper, which should also be even with the top of my spine piece. If you're a little off, that's okay, and we'll just place that. Okay, next we are going to do the same thing. So I'm going to flip this upside down. So again, over here is now where my thing is. I'm going to make sure that I don't cut into anything else. So when I place this on my paper cutter, it's just going to be to the left side of this flower, this pansy it looks like. Set this piece off to the side. We are not quite done with that. So with this, once again, measure over 8 3/8 inch and cut. The small piece goes in our reserves. We are going to apply glue to the back, and we're going to come over here, and the scalloped edge will be towards the spine, and we will glue that down. Okay, I've got mine down. Okay, what we're going to want to do is cut strips off this to fit in between here. So one thing I noticed about this border piece on each side, the edge was a little bit different in size than the other. So I'm going to look over. Let's go this way. So our thing's here. So I'm going to measure over. Here is my piece. Measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut. Put your small piece in your reserves. Let's apply glue, and let's see. I want the purple to show up, so I'm going to go on the back side, apply my glue, and place that right in that slot, just like that. Okay, I've got mine down there. We're going to move on over to this spacing, and I have a little bit different here in a spacing. I'm actually 1/4 of an inch. And I think quarter, I'm going to be right at the bottom. No, I'm going to take it from this side now. I'm going to measure in 1/4 of an inch and cut, and we'll be okay. Just if you hang out, if you hit it right on the top of this image here, you'll be just fine. So that's my measuring cue. Alright, same thing. I'm going to measure over 8 3/8 of an inch and cut. My scrap piece is going to go in my reserve. I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to place that right in there. If you have a little bit of a white still showing or anything, if you miscut yours, that's okay. Don't worry about it. By the time we're done with what we're going to do, you're not even going to notice it. Okay, so we got that down. So we're going to get a couple pieces ready to go here. I have my lace piece. I want to cut out this envelope. So I'm just going to use my scissors and cut out and around. Just in case we want to use this image, again, not the image, but the pattern. Before we do any scoring or folding of it, we're going to actually trace this onto a piece of white cardstock. So I cut mine out, and you'll want to make sure that you cut your notches out. We can stick this in our reserves. I'm going to move this out of the way for just a moment. Grab a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just going to flip this over so that it fits, and I'm going to trace my image just in case we want to use this envelope again. Once we're done tracing this, we will cut it out and set it off to the side for a pattern. And you have your scraps, stick in your white cardstock. This I'm going to just put right back. I'm going to put inside my paper pack for safekeeping. Okay, so for this, we're definitely going to want our scoring board out. We're only going to score lightly. It's easier for me to line up because it shows me where the edges is rather than flipping this over and lining up. It's just easier for me. I mean, you could flip it over, find your corner to corner and score. But for me, it's easier to line up those notches looking at the paper, and we'll lightly score. And we'll do the same over here, and we'll do it on the other sides as well. Okay, I've got mine all scored. Now I can just turn it over and find those score lines. Alrighty, so how this is going to work is like this, but we're not going to glue it down just yet. Grab a couple magnets, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to slip a magnet back behind here. And I'm just going to place it one side of it. Okay, so what we want to do is place our glue on these flaps. You can wipe up anything that shows through, and we're just going to flip it over. If you gooped on your your glue, what you might want to do is grab one of your scratch pieces of cardstock and just slide it back behind so that the glue does not seep down and keep your envelope mashed together. Okay, grab the mate, let it fall and bind. Place a dot of glue in the center of that. Bring this over, press, and you should be able to see where that magnet needs to place. Once you see that little circle there, grab your magnet and you'll be able to see the glue side goes to the glue and place it. Now don't flip it over just yet because the magnet will probably come unattached. In our reserves we have this little, it looks like a pansy. We're just going to snip that right out and we're going to cut around it. And we can put all this back in our reserves. So let's cut that out. Okay, I'm going to ink around the edges, and the color I'm going to use is lilac. So daub, brush off some, and then lightly ink around those edges. Boy, I am all thumbs today. Okay, so we want to apply glue to this. And we're just going to stick this down right like that. Making sure it gets around that magnet down as best you can without going over the edges. And once you have that down, now you can snap it shut. So we have these two pieces, and we're going to set these off to the side. Okay, so for this next step, you'll want a little bit of patience. And if you don't want to use your crinkle ribbon for this, you want to reserve it for something inside. We're not going to be crinkling this at this point. So any white ribbon or off-white ribbon will work. The idea of what we're going to do is, see where the bottom of this corner is? We're going to run this to where the edge of this meets here. And right now, and I'm going to cut this, but for now I'm just going to clip this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so it will make sense. There we go. I'll just leave it like that. So I'm going to wrap it over the spine, and you'll want to try and do this keeping it from going like this. You want to keep it out and even, but I'm going to wrap it over the spine. And here we have some lines here, and that's what's going to help us. When you hit that line, that is where we are going to fold it over the other way and glue it to the front of the album. It will come over like that. Whoops, I'm all over the place, so give me this. I need this back to show you. Okay, so down, and then on that line we will fold it over nicely, and then it's going to come back over to this purple one here. That's where we fold it, and it should be a straight edge, and we are going to keep zigzagging all the way up to the top. So I'm going to cut mine at an angle. I am going to use my art glitter glue as soon as I get my thing cut nice. And this is where you're going to want to use a binder clip to hold it down. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to have glue underneath this piece. Hot glue is a quick starting aid for this, maybe a small tack and then move, but remember the hot glue will seep through and discolor a lot of your ribbon. So this is where patience is going to have to play a part. And I'm just going to get that right at the edge so it does not pull. Your binder clip will work. And now I'm going to apply glue to the back, and I'm not going to goop it on. Remember, gluing fabric takes a bit of time to grab. So that's why this is a patience game here. And we're going to wrap it over the spine to that line. So let me show you what I got here. I am at that line. And sometimes it's easier just to get some ribbon out of the way there. And now I'm going to fold it over nicely. So I'm going to need some glue underneath there to grab. And now I'm going to add my glue to the back side of the ribbon to wrap over. And I'll do little at a time. And again, I'm going to prop this up. There we go. And I'm going to wrap it nicely over. Okay, I'm at that point. Make sure I get some over here. And now I'm going to fold it over along that edge. Put some glue in there. And if you get bleeding through, it doesn't matter because it adds to like a texture to our album. And also, there's other things we're going to be adding. So let's continue on. And right before I get to the end up here, I will turn the video back on. I'm up here at the top, and I'm just going to wrap this over at an angle up here. So I will cut that. And I will show you what I'm doing here. Again, I'll put the glue on the ribbon. Get those ends so they don't fray. And wrap it. So if you started at the bottom here and went up that way, when you do the back, because we're going to do the same, you will start at the bottom here. And when you're wrapping, you will try to stay consistent in the same as where you folded over at what point. So let's move on to doing that. So I've got mine on there. Okie dokie. Before we get into the flat back pearls, I am grabbing my secondary ribbon color that is thinner, and I am going to glue that down and do the same process, gluing it and twist it to where when it comes back over, it's going to be at the middle point here, flipping over, so that this is centered in our whiter color. So I've got mine on, and this is again like patience and drying time, making sure that ribbon is down. And now I'm going to prop this back up for us. Okay, I've got my flat back pearls and apply some glue. Propped up so you can see what's happening here. Stay. And then this one is going to be a little off-centered right around here. Once this is dry, we're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing with the flat back pearls. Once you have your flat back pearls on and they're dry, let's open this album up again. Now I have 4 flat back pearls and they're domed, but you can use the same style as before. If you got your zigzag off, this is where you can give the illusion that they are evened up. So I'm going to use hot glue because it is a lot quicker. So I am a little off down here. And so I'm just going to look right on over there and try to place this to where it's across. Same thing up here. And that looks pretty good. Okay, back to the cover. Your lace, we're just going to glue that down right like this. So this is hard to make sure that hard sometimes, because after you put your glue down, you realize that you didn't get the edges. So just carefully place it around where it needs it to tack down. So we do definitely need to give this a moment. I'm going to give mine about 5-10 minutes to dry, since it's such a delicate piece. So I just want to make sure it all grabs. Grab one of your Jolees, and I'm going to grab this one. It already has a sticky adhesive, but I never trust that. So I am going to add my own adhesive to the back, and I will need my binder clip for this, or a clamp. Now when you place this, make sure that the side of it doesn't go over into the area where your hook goes. I think I'll go just like this and be just fine. Okay, I'm going to clamp mine, or use your binder clip to hold it there and let that dry. While that's drying, cut a piece of your lace, and this is the flapper style, I believe. At least it looks like it. And you'll cut a piece that will fit side to side, and you'll just bring it down. Probably hang it on there about 1/4 of an inch or so. Okay, so for this, I think I want to possibly leave this open so we can slide something back behind. So let's get our glue out. And if you're having a hard time with yours staying down, mine is down. I'm going to show you where on the back of this you can place a dab of hot glue. First, let's add some glue to the sides of this and the bottom. Make sure you get enough there so it's going to grab. And we'll leave this open. Now, if you are having a hard time, just do a little bit of hot glue right there. And now let's place it at an angle. And we're going to overlap a little onto the Jolees there. And we're going to press it down. Now, since it's bowed up because of this, this is a good time to put a binder clip or your clamps. And a lot of people have asked me, where did I get my clamps? Well, my original set for my clamps was purchased, my husband found them on eBay. I think they're called wolf clamps. And I got them in a bundle, a package that had several in it. So if you are looking to buy these clamps, search on eBay for wolf clamps. Okay, so we're just going to give that some time to grab. Should not take that long. And over here it will eventually grab onto that flat back. And you can just press it down to help it out a little bit. Okay. Bling. Let's grab some bling. The cover usually takes the longest to decorate for me, because there's a lot of things going on there. And looks like I need to get a little more underneath here, and I'll just shoot a little bit of hot glue. So we're probably not going to see a whole lot of this, so what I wanted to do, but we're going to put a little bit anyway. Some might peek out by the time we're done. We'll just cut a piece that will fit. We're just going to run some glue down this and glue this down. Make sure you pat it down so it really grabs there. We're going to cut a couple pieces of bling, and we're actually going to bring them into the inside of that pink swirl. So I'm going to cut 2 that will fit, and then I'm going to glue those down. Okay, grab a couple of your vines, apply glue if you have vines. If not, you can do leaves, and you can tuck them back behind flowers as you lay them. And I'm just going to arrange mine to go just like this. So when you're placing these down, you want to make sure that you get some of these edges to actually have some glue on so it doesn't snag. And you're going to steer clear of that edge, so you're not gluing over to keep this from popping out. So I've got a flower here, and I'm going to place my first one, and I'm just going to place it right here. Second one, this is one with lilac on it, and I'll place that right there. I have this one, and I'll just place that right there. And I have this one, and it's just going to go right here. So I've got a strip of crinkle ribbon, and I'm going to crinkle it up. I created a bow with it, and now where you can barely see, perhaps you can't see yours anymore, but the flat back pearl, I'm just going to glue that right there. And I'm going to use hot glue for this. Let's open up our album. We'll grab our Tim Holtz Baroque frame. In your reserves, you will find this piece, and this is perfect for what we want. And you can do anything you want. You can cover it here or here. I'm going to get part of the butterfly in mine, and all I'm going to do is cut around what I need. Okay, this goes back in my reserves. I've got my glue around this, and this is where all I'm going to do is place this down. Make sure that's on there. Flip it over and apply my glue all over the back of this frame. And I'm going to mount it right here, right in the middle there, on my spine. Okay, we're going to move on to the inside of the album for now, and off to page 1. And oh, one more thing is, since I am making this as I go, we may come back and visit certain pages inside. Perhaps we finish page 1 and 2 and we're off into page 4, and I said, you know what, let's flip back to page 1. There's something I want to add or whatnot. And those are pretty much afterthoughts, and sometimes I do that. So as soon as this is done drying, we can just set this off to the side. Page 1. So in your paper pack, you will find this print on the back. It looks like this. So I am going to turn this so that the flowers are up here now, because I'm going to measure over this way. So measure over 8 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Put this in reserves for now. Now let's look at it like this. Measure over 6 inches and cut that right in the middle. This sheet, hold to the side. Don't put it in your reserves so you don't accidentally cut into it. Hold this one off to the side for page 2. And we're going to work with this one. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 inches by 8.5. And we're going to get into our desire, and this is the delicate trellis. It looks like this when we're done. It's beautiful. And we are 8.5 inches across. So what you're going to want to do is lay this at the top, and you're going to want to be even from side to side. So we do want some sides to flap over to the back. So bringing it all the way to the top, centered, run this through your die cutter. Oh, really quick, a quick tip. These are very delicate. This one I did not have an issue with, but for easy release, I don't know if you guys know this tip or not, but using some wax paper helps. And I'll show you how this works in case you are unfamiliar with this technique. Got some wax paper here. What you would do is just place it up here, at the top of your paper. Then you lay your die over it. Now it's going to try to slip around on you. That's the only downside of it. But then what you do is you run it through the die cutter, and it will help release the intricate die pieces from your paper. And I'll show you mine. I ran this through my die cutter, and the wax sheet is still there, but this is how easy it is to remove it once you have that waxed piece. Okay? And then these, if you have the tool, it's much easier to get it out. I like to just poke at mine to get them out. But the main thing is it's easier to get these out now. They just come right out, as you can see. So that is a tip for die cutting. And you can always try and reuse the piece that you had before by lining it up. It should fall right in those grooves. If not, use a fresh piece. That's a little tip for die cutting. So I am going to poke mine through and get this ready to go. Okay, so I've got mine all cleaned up. This is at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this on my paper cutter so I can get a straight, even line from side to side to release this top. So from the corner here where the cutout of the die is, I'm just going to cut straight up this way and then straight down this way. Grab your scoring board, and we're going to place it down like this. At a 1/2 inch, we're going to score. And then for this, and I'm going to show you a way so that you can get this lined up pretty good. We want some flaps to overhang off to the side. So all I'm going to do is line this up straight here and make sure that this is centered from side to side. It's not crooked. And I'm going to take a pencil, and from the edge of my sheet right here, I'm just going to go just to the right side and make little pencil marks. So that's going to show me where my score line needs to be, because this is going to be a pocket that will accommodate a little more picture mats, have a little more spacing in there, because we got some nice spacing in between our pages, so we're going to utilize that. So I'm going to line up that score line with one of my things here, with all my lines, and I'll make the first score. I'm going to come over here and line that one up, and I'm going to score. Okay, leave your paper, this last score, leave it in place. Measure over 1/8 of an inch and score to the right of that. Okay, over here, line that back up, that line if you had to move yours, where that first score is. Now measure over 1/8 of an inch to the left and score. Okay, turn this back over, and we have a 1/2 inch where we scored. I forgot, we do need to accommodate. So you have your 1/2 inch score line at the bottom here. Measure over to the right 1/8 of an inch and score. Okay, now what we have here is an inner score line and an outer score line. On this inner one, we are going to clip up, because we have a top one going this way and then a bottom one going this way. So we're going to go to the inner score line and clip up to the top one, right where it meets that corner. And then we are going to go to the top score line, and we are going to cut over to release that corner. And we will do it again over here. The inner score line to the top one, and now we'll just cut over. Just like that. So now it's time to fold on our score lines. You can use your tool if you need, and we'll fold these in as well. So I've got all mine folded. So what we want to do is, you have a score line. Looking at it like this, you have a top score line and a bottom score line. On that bottom one, pinch on it and smooth it out. we're going to hook our paper back behind that little ledge. Now this is important. Those inner score lines where we made those pencil marks, we're just going to line that up so that they are sitting where you can still wrap around the edges there nicely. So once you have that in place, you're going to pinch and hold it, flip it over. If you feel it slip, start over with lining it up. This is where I like to use my hot glue gun because it's quick tacking. And I'm just going to push that one up. Now don't fold in these yet, because what we have to do is that top score line, now we have to fold back on that, and we will push it up until we can fill it on the bottom where it is flat, and mine is. So once that's done, it's okay for me to bring these back around and just tack them. So now you have a nice pocket. In your paper pack, we'll find this print. On the back, it looks like this. So I am going to turn it, so I'm looking at it like this. Measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. Stick this in your reserves. Measure over 6 inches and cut. This one, put in your reserves. Let's flip this over. Now this, if we it will come all the way up to where we can see that white strip. And we'll have some white down at the bottom. But this is how we're going to glue it down. Before we glue anything down, let's grab a scrap piece of cardstock, like so, and we're going to just stick it right back behind in our pocket, because when we place glue on this piece, it's going to probably seep a little through the cutouts here. So apply glue and glue this down. Once you've glued that down, make sure that that is down, and then what you'll want to do is grab this piece, pull it out, you'll see where there's some glue, and you can turn it back around and sop up any more glue. And that way it'll keep your piece from gluing in. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. We had cut out the envelope up here. On the back, it looks like this. This piece here, let's cut that out. Okay, stick this in your reserves. We have this piece. Look in your reserves to see if you have any white cardstock. What we're going to do is apply glue to this, and we'll bring it over to the edge. And what you're going to want to do is, because when we cut this out, this isn't an even cut. If you notice it was kind of off in places, I just rounded my corners up. And even down here I cut in where the image was. But I'm just going to glue that right on down there. So you will have some white corners, and that's fine. All I'm going to do now is come in with my scissors and cut straight up. And I'm going to leave the white, actually. I think that'll look just fine. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a bend. I'm going to use my glue for this, and I'm going to place a line of glue on each side, a fine line, and at the bottom. And I'm going to place it. Now, you don't want it bowing up that much, so just kind of push it down, and you will have a little bit opening right here. And we're just going to let that grab hold, and you will have a little pocket there. On my 49th and Market Butterfly Harvest, I am grabbing this purple little butterfly. Now, these little stickums that they have in between, I don't really trust those. So I'm just going to peel that back and daub a little bit of my glue under there. And on the back it is sticky, but I am going to add a little of my own glue, just to make sure. And I think I'll just stick that butterfly right down here. And I'm going to let my glue set and dry. I'm going to grab one of my vines and I'm going to glue it down right like this, making sure nothing overhangs. The pale little yellow flower I'm going to glue right here. I've got a small single layer flower right here, and then a single layer little yellow one. And I'm going to glue that down. We're not using the same die as I am with the leaves. Maybe you don't have the vine one. You can just improvise by using some of your other little leaves and tucking them back behind the flowers. Let's set this off to the side. Cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 8 inches by 5.5 inches. And then let's get our scoreboard out. I'm 5.5 inches across. Okay, so what we want to do is our first score is going to be at the 1/2 inch. Our next score line is going to be at 3/4. And we're going to do the same with this one, 1/2 inch, 3/4. And then we're going to fold on these score lines. So we're going to take one of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the same die we used over here, which is the Delicate Trellis, and I'm going to use my wax paper to help me. So we're going to piggyback this, and what it's going to do is kind of look like this. So here is our flap down here, as you can see. So we're just going to go to the other edge. The first thing that we are going to do is make sure we are centered so that we have an even amount of spacing left over on each side. And we're going to run this through our die cutter. Now, one thing, a tip, so that you can stay, when we do piggyback these next to each other, make sure that you pull your die plate to where the tips are even with the top, because that's going to help us when we lay this die plate again. So this is what you should have. Our flap is down here. What we're going to do is piggyback this. So you can kind of see an imaginary line where the top would be, so you can get this straight. Now down here at the corner, you will hit corner to corner like this. Don't put it over too far because you'll end up cutting this. So I just kind of line it up like this. And then I'm going to run it through my die cutter, and then I'm going to come back, put the plate over on this side, and I'm going to run it through the die cutter. So let's do that. So this is what you should have. Now, if you are not using 110 pound cardstock, what you might want to do is cut a strip of white cardstock for your edges. A 65 pound might be a little weak if you have open edges, or not. It depends on how you feel. Mine is fine. It's open. It does not seem to be creating any problem. So how this is going to play out, I think, is we're just going to be attaching this soon. We're going to put our papers and everything on, and this is going to lay right over. So first thing, let's grab the one without any die cut. Our flap is off to the left, and I like to tuck my flap all the way back behind when I'm working, so I can see exactly how much paper I need to cover. So you have an outer score line and an inner one. Let's pinch on that inner one so that they all go back behind. Grab this out of your reserves, and we're going to turn it so we're looking at it upside down. Measure over 4.5 inches and cut. Put this in reserves for right now. Okay, looking at your piece like this, flip it over, and we'll just turn it to where we're looking at it like this. Measure over 7 7/8 of an inch and cut. This little scrap we'll just put in our reserves. Okay, so verify you are going to fit. Again, remember you have that flap back behind. It should give you a nice white border. Let's lay a magnet. Here's our flap back on the left-hand side. Over here, and it would be from centered, top to bottom. Just bring it in maybe a 1/4 inch in, which would be fine, and place that. Now let's apply glue to this, and we are going to glue that down. I've got mine down. Let's just flip that over, and the flap would now be off to the right. In your paper pack, you'll find this. On the back, it looks like this. It's just writing. We're going to be using where this is showing. However, I want us to have the same cuts, so we are going to do the same thing. So we're looking at our paper like this. We're going to measure over 4.5 inches and cut. Stick this in reserves. Now I'm going to turn it, measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. Put this extra little piece in our reserves for right now. Apply glue and mount this. You should have a little bit of a white border. However, I want to tell you here, if you were to lay out your flap, here is a score line and here is one. Definitely do not want to be on that score line. And with this cut, you should be able to move it over to the left, your panel, to give yourself about 1/8 of an inch, and it will be about 1/8 of an inch away from that inside score line. If it gets on there, your fold out will not work properly. So apply glue and glue that down. Okay, it is time to attach this. So you have an inside score and an outside score line on that flap. Pinch on the outside. This is easiest for me at least. We're going to hook it back behind our sheet. And when we do this, we just want to make sure our top and our bottom is lined up. And sometimes it's harder when you have some bulk underneath, so just do the best you can. So top and bottom, it looks pretty straight even here. Once you have it, pinch it, hold it, flip it over, and keep holding it down. If you feel it slip, start over with realigning it. And whoops. Well, that's not working out very well. And I'm just going to pull over that flap. And I made a little bit of a mess. That's alright, it won't hurt nothing. Okay, so once you have that, push it back. And your fold out should look like this. Okay, let's work on our other side. On our other piece, on the inner score line here, pinch it and make sure your flap is completely back behind, so all we see is the panel in which we need to lay our paper on. In your reserves, you will see that you have this scrap piece. It has the pretty flowers over here. On the back, it looks like this. Let's turn it over this way. Measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. The small piece, stick in your reserves. And at your piece like this, measure over 2 3/4 of an inch and cut. Stick this off to the side. Okay, so this should fit, and we're going to show our full beautiful trim here. This should give you a white border top, bottom, and we'll want a little bit of a white border off to the side. Apply glue and glue that down. Alright, we're going to attach this now. So what you want to do, because we are pretty thick, is same thing on the outer score line. Pinch it now. We're going to attach it, and this is the part where take a moment, patience, to get yourself lined up. And once you have that, I think I'm good right there. Once you have that, pinch and hold, flip it over, and apply your glue, whether you're using white glue or whatever the case may be. Okay, so once you have that, now you can push it back, and this is what you should have. Okay, let's open it up. We do need to attach a magnet so that it will hold shut. Grab the mate to the one we have buried under here. Let it find it. Put a dab of glue right in the middle. And now make sure that you are straight and flush on this side. And gently pull it over. And this is a part where you can realign. If you're off a little bit, you can make it go the way you want it to. So I'm flush over there. I'm going to push, open, and I can see now where that is. And I will put my glue there. And glue showing on the magnet goes to glue showing on the paper. That's otherwise, if you put it the wrong way, it doesn't, you know, it pushes it away. Grab this back out of your reserves. Measure over 2 3/4 inches and cut. The larger piece goes back in our reserves. Now measure over 7 7/8 inches and cut. The small piece back in our reserves. We're going to apply glue to this side, and we are going to mount that. I had you stick this off to the side. Just stick this in reserves. Let's try our magnet out, and it should close. Okay, so I cut off a piece of my leafy vine, and I'm going to glue that down right here, making sure that I don't go over the edge with any of the vine pieces. And I have a pink flower, and it's going to place right here, making sure that it does not go over the edge. Now just make sure that your flower does not get caught underneath this. So that's why I had it closed when showing you. So let's glue that down. Grabbed one of these butterflies from my butterfly harvest, and I lost the back piece. Like I said, I don't trust those things, so I have only a single layer, but you can put a double layer. And I'm just going to place this right up here. Cut about 3 pieces of your bling, and I am going to put this on this. I think I got quite a bit there. Don't need quite that much. This is going to take a moment for it to dry. And I'm also going to place one flower. I was looking at that. I want another flower. And this one's purple. And I'm just going to stick that right there. That looks better to me. Page 1 is complete. And we're just going to, after everything dries, you'll want to flip this over. And we're going to add score tape. So we're going to start off by adding score tape around the outside like a picture frame. And I've got mine on there. We're going to go one down the middle and one on either side. We do not mount page 1 until we have mounted page 2. And when we get that far, I will explain further why. So page 1 is complete. We're moving on to page 2. Just set this off to the side.